The diplomatic hall fell silent as Ambassador Krethzor watched the human female through the observation panel. Anna sat cross-legged in the containment garden, a data tablet balanced in one hand, completely absorbed in whatever text scrolled across its surface. This was the third day of observation, and the Valkorian Council remained baffled by her behavior. "She hasn't moved in 43 minutes, Krethzor's aide whispered, his scales rippling with confusion. "Is this normal for humans?" Before the ambassador could respond, 3 juvenile Raxithian stalkers emerged from the undergrowth. These were not domesticated creatures. They were apex predators from Raxithia Prime, capable of tearing through reinforced steel once fully grown. Even as cubs, their claws could slice through flesh like butter, and their instincts were purely predatory. Every species in the Galactic Council knew to maintain a respectful distance from Raxithian stalkers. Even the Valkorians, who stood 8 feet tall and possessed natural armor plating, gave these creatures wide berth. Protocol dictated immediate evacuation when stalkers entered any occupied space. The cubs approached Anna with the characteristic hunting crouch of their species, low to the ground, eyes fixed, muscles coiled. The largest of the 3, its mottled gray fur bristling with infant aggression, crept within striking distance. "Get her out of there," someone shouted from the observation deck. "Initiate emergency extraction." But Ambassador Krethzor raised his hand, staying the order. Something about the human's complete lack of reaction intrigued him. She hadn't even glanced up from her reading. The largest cub pounced. In one fluid motion, it landed directly on Anna's lap, its weight causing her to shift slightly. She adjusted her posture, tilted the tablet to a better angle, and continued reading. The cub's siblings followed, clambering over each other to claim space on or near the human. One draped itself across her ankles. Another pressed against her side, its head resting on her thigh. Anna reached down with her free hand without looking and scratched behind the largest cub's ear. The predator began to purr. "By the 7 suns," Krethzor breathed. "What is she doing?" The observation deck erupted in chaos. Council members from a dozen species shouted over each other, demanding explanations, calling for immediate intervention, questioning whether the human possessed some kind of psionic ability that could pacify predators. Anna turned a page on her tablet. "Ambassador." His aide's voice trembled. "The Raxithian delegate is on approach. He's demanding to know why we've allowed his species' cubs near an unknown alien." Krethzor had been dreading this conversation. The Raxithians were notoriously protective of their young, and notoriously aggressive about perceived threats. He'd approved this diplomatic exchange, hoping to better understand humanity before they were granted council membership, but he hadn't anticipated the cubs escaping their enclosure. The observation deck doors hissed open. Warlord Scarix entered, his crimson scales gleaming, his battle scars testament to centuries of combat. He stood 7 feet tall even by Raxithian standards, and his presence commanded immediate silence. "Where?" Scarix growled. "Are my cubs?" Krethzor gestured toward the observation panel. Scarix approached, his expression dark with fury, his clawed hands flexing in anticipation of violence. Then he saw Anna. He saw his cubs, curled contentedly around the human female who continued reading as if lounging with apex predators was the most natural thing in the universe. The warlord's anger transformed into confusion. "What? What is she doing to them?" "Nothing, Warlord," Krethzor replied carefully. "She's simply reading. Impossible. My cubs do not behave this way with strangers. They barely tolerate my own pack members." As if to prove his point, the largest cub rolled onto its back, exposing its vulnerable belly while Anna absently rubbed its stomach. The gesture was one of complete trust, something adult Raxithians rarely displayed even to their own kind. Jack, Anna's diplomatic partner, chose that moment to enter the observation deck. The young human male carried 2 cups of steaming liquid, coffee if Krethzor remembered correctly from the briefing materials. "Is Anna still in the garden?" Jack asked casually. "She's been reading that novel for hours. I brought her." He noticed the assembled crowd, the tension in the air, the massive Raxithian warlord staring intently through the observation panel. "Oh, did something happen?" "Your companion," Scarix rumbled, "has somehow subdued 3 Raxithian cubs." Jack moved to the window and laughed. "Subdued? She's just reading. The cubs probably wanted attention." He spoke into his comm device. Hey, Anna, you've got an audience up here. Also, your coffee's getting cold. Anna finally looked up from her tablet. She glanced at the cubs draped across her, seemed to notice them for the first time, then looked toward the observation deck and waved. Sorry, I got to a really good part. Are these someone's pets? They're adorable. The observation deck remained silent. Pets? Scarix repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. She thinks my cubs are... Pets? Jack shrugged. I mean, they kind of look like the cats we have back on Earth. Bigger, sure, and way more teeth, but Anna's always been good with animals. Last month, she hand-fed a Zentarian swamp dragon because she thought it looked hungry. Swamp dragons are Class 7 hazards. Someone shouted. Yeah, she mentioned it seemed cranky. Jack sipped his coffee. Look, is this going to take long? We're supposed to meet with the trade delegation in an hour. Ambassador Krethzor found himself laughing. A rare sound from a Valkorian. The absurdity of the situation, combined with the human's complete nonchalance, struck him as somehow perfectly representative of everything the Council had learned about humanity over the past month. They were terrifying, not because they were aggressive, but because they fundamentally didn't understand what should terrify them. Fear seemed optional for humans. Danger was subjective. Apex predators were adorable. Warlord Scarix, Krethzor said, composing himself. I believe we've just witnessed why the humans have been so successful in exploring hostile worlds. They simply don't recognize hostility the same way we do. Scarix watched his cubs, now playing with Anna's hair while she returned to her reading. The Council has been debating whether humans should be granted membership, he said slowly. Whether they can be trusted as allies in dangerous situations. And? Krethzor prompted. The warlord's expression shifted into something that might have been a smile. Any species that can make my cubs purr without trying is either the greatest threat the galaxy has ever known, or the greatest asset. He paused. I vote for membership. We need more of this, whatever this is. Below, Anna turned another page, one hand still absently petting the deadly predator in her lap. Completely absorbed in her story, while the fate of human-galactic relations shifted around her. Jack took another sip of coffee and grinned. Yeah, that's Anna for you.